Welcome to Art's Place, conservative talk from a different view, from the Casablanca studio in Golden, Colorado. Hosted by Art Carlson. At 4'6", liberals fear him, and conservatives love him. He's definitely a giant among men. Now here's your host, Art Carlson.
Yeah, we're back. Welcome to another episode of Art's Place, conservative talk from a conservative view. We got a great show today. We got a lot to talk about, and it's going to be a great show. Believe me, it will be a great show. We're going to talk about the Colorado State GOP has selected a new chair to guide this sinking ship for 2 years at least, until we either keep the guy we've got or select another one. So we shall see what happens. Hopefully we could turn things around, start winning elections again, and getting back our state, because we are in deep doo-doo right now. Also today, red flag bill. In case you don't know what that's all about, that gives a judge or police the freedom to come in and take your guns away if they deem you a threat to society or mentally unstable. So we'll talk about that. National popular vote, that passed, the governor signed that. We'll talk about that and some other really bad bills. But before we do all that stuff, how about that Mueller report? That's a victory to Donald Trump. That is just awesome. The liberal talking heads on cable and on network news, their heads exploded. And they're still driving this theme that Donald Trump is still guilty of collusion, even though the report exonerates him and says there's no collusion here and there's no obstruction of justice. So the media is going to keep on hammering this lie that our president has obstructed justice, colluded with the Russians, and it just isn't true. We've got a coup that is taking place, and the media is trying to take down this president. Now, I've been around for almost 60 years now, and I thought it was pretty bad under George W. Bush. You know, they really went after him. But Donald Trump, because he's actually, achieving the things that he promised he would do, the media is just having a hissy fit. The Democrats are going nuts. And this country, I think, is more deeply divided than I had ever seen. You know, it was pretty bad during the 60s when the Vietnam War was going. But people weren't, attacking each other like they are now. Now that we've got social media, friendships that have been around for decades gone because of the politics. I've lost a lot of friends because, they know my views and I know theirs, and hey, I'm willing to have a civil discussion, but when when someone starts, becoming condescending and starts calling me names, I don't, that's just not me. I'm not into that. And I tell them, go take a hike, or I just say, adios, see ya. I even have friends on my side that we're not speaking anymore because I've been critical about some of the politicians on our side, because I see them doing stupid things that are hurting the party and hurting their chances of winning re-election. So that's how it goes. And I think, now that media is getting more and more advanced, we're getting information like that in a split second, and we're constantly bombarded with information every minute, every second. Back when I was a kid, we had 3 networks, and we had newspapers, and yeah, there was some bias in the media, but God, it's just not as blatant as it is today. And it just amazes me how things have gone the way they've gone. And now it's gotten to a point where people have this idea that anybody that doesn't have their, agrees with their opinion, they're somehow evil or something like that. It's like, that's just crazy, because you're just making it harder to make your point to someone like me on my side. Now, if you can make a valid argument that supports your premise, hey, I'm willing to listen. But now it's gotten to a point where it's just this constant yelling and screaming, and it's devolved into physical violence in some cases, and it just really bothers me. And we need to turn this around, and we need to be united. Back in the day, I used to think that Democrats, they just have a different idea of how things should be done, and I was tolerant of their ideas, but now they're getting more and more militant about it, and I'm just tired of it. And I'm like, well, you know what? The way you're going, it's not helping. You won't sit down and have an honest discussion about ideas, and so all it's about is about us versus them, and not working together. I think they think they're doing the right thing for the country, and I know our side thinks we're doing the right thing for the country. But what bothers me is people do not see what happens when their vision has been tried in other places and have failed. And it's like, why do you want to go down that route? I mean, there's no way of saying, oh, but we'll do it better, or we'll do it differently. And it's like, no, everybody says that, and they've done it, and it turns out wrong no matter how much you cut it. Look at Europe. they're always touting, well, we'll be like Scandinavia. They're socialists, and they're not really socialists. At one time, they were a lot more socialist than they are now, but they woke up and they found out that hey, they couldn't sustain the burden on the government, and they couldn't tax enough people to pay for all these benefits. So it was detrimental to the country, and so what they did is they made a mixture, and they're more capitalist than they were at one time. But what they're doing wrong right now is they're letting people in from countries that are that don't like their lifestyle. They're not willing to assimilate to their culture and traditions, and that's the thing. The beauty of the United States was we got people from all over the world coming here, and they became Americans. Yeah, they kept some of their values and traditions, but they weren't trying to make this country look like their old country. Now we're getting immigrants coming in, and they're coming in because they want to get away from the bad policies in their old country, but they want to bring those policies here to the United States. And it's like, why would you go someplace to escape something bad only to change this country to be like your old country where you left and make it just as crappy here as it was back then? And that's what's going on. So let's get into our first topic. We've chosen a new chairman for the state party, Republican Party, and that is Congressman Ken Buck. Now, this is a little bit different arrangement that he has. He is the chairman, but Steve House, the former chair, is the CEO of the party. So he's going to be kind of like the management, if you will. Ken Buck will be doing his duties in Washington, D.C., while Steve House conducts business here in the United States. Now, the advantage of doing it this way is I believe Ken Buck can bring in a lot more money into the party to help the candidates running for office here. Now, the downside is, will it be more of the same when it was under Steve House leadership? Because, but you got to remember, when Steve House was the chair, yeah, we lost a few seats in the House, but we still had the state Senate, and we held all the statewide seats like Secretary of State, Treasurer, and many of the county chairs, county commissioners. That's what I'm trying to say. So, yeah, a lot of people like to harp on Steve House for the way he handled the party under his tenure. But it wasn't as bad as it was under Jeff Hayes. Now, Jeff didn't do a bad job. I just think that he didn't foresee what the Democrats were doing. He didn't realize that the Democrats, what they were doing was called ballot harvesting. And that is something that our party should have been doing to, keep the playing field level and to get people to vote on our side. What Democrats did different, is they actually sent volunteers out going door to door and asking those people what were, the things that they thought were important. They would say, how important is family leave to you? And basically what they did is they steered the question to the liberal side, and that's how they were able to convince these unaffiliate voters to vote Democrat. Now, with all these really bad bills going through, I think the public is starting to realize, oh my God, we made a huge mistake. And now it's leading to recall elections. And right now there's a movement underway to recall Governor Polis. And that's what's different about Colorado than other states. Yes, California did recall Gray Davis back in the 90s, and Arnold Schwarzenegger became the new governor, and he did marginally better than Gray Davis, but he's a horrible Republican right now. So we'll talk about that a little later. So now that we got some more really bad bills that are heading towards the governor's desk, there's a recall movement for a number of state senators and state House members. For example, I'm here in Jefferson County, and they're talking about recalling State Senator Rachel Zenzinger, which is my state senator, and Brittany Pedersen and Tammy Story. Those are the candidates they're going after. And then on the House side, they're going after Tracy Kraft Tharp, who's my representative, and I can't remember who the state rep is from House District 27, but she is also on the list. So it's going to be really interesting to see how that unfolds. And some of the things that culminated into the recall movement is, number one was the national popular vote, which is really, a really bad idea. We'll talk about that a little later. That was one of the first really bad bills that went through, and that was the one that was the catalyst to removing Governor Polis. And now the next really bad bill is the red flag bill. And there are a lot of counties where the sheriffs are saying, hey, you pass this, but we're not going to enforce it. And our Democrat elected or Attorney General Paul Budweiser has stated, hey, if you won't enforce these laws, resign. And it's like, that's not how it goes. This is clearly an unconstitutional bill, which I think will probably end up going to the Supreme Court, United States Supreme Court, and struck down. Now, the state of Maryland, they passed a similar bill that resulted in a death of a gun owner, because someone said that this man was mentally unstable, who was probably a disgruntled family member, neighbor, co-worker went to a judge and said, hey, this guy is not a little right in the head, so he owns some guns. So the judge had an order for the police to go and confiscate the guy's guns. And what ended up happening is that the police showed up at 5 o'clock in the morning, or even earlier than that. They surrounded his house, and the guy, he's like going, what's going on? Who is knocking on my door at this time in the morning? And naturally, if it was me and I own a gun, I would have it on me in case there's somebody trying to break in. And so he answered the door, and what happened? The cops killed him. They shot him. So now this could lead to a big lawsuit, which will end up costing the state a lot of money, and it could be into the millions of dollars. And what it boils down to is you can have a disgruntled lover, an ex-wife, ex-husband, co-worker, neighbor, who could, all they have to do is just make a complaint to a judge, and they'll sign a warrant for the cops to come and get your guns. And it sets a bad precedent, because what it does, let me get my mic over a little closer. What it does, it removes the presumption of innocent until proven guilty. And that's what our laws are based on, our justice system. And now we're going more towards you have to prove your innocence. You're guilty until proven innocent. And that's not how it should go. So we gotta turn this around, because now we got these do-gooder liberals who think, oh, they know better. We gotta get rid of all the guns, and that'll stop the gun violence. And that's not gonna happen at all. There are countries around the world that have very strict gun laws, and they still have gun violence. Look at the city of Chicago. They've got one of the most stringent gun laws on the books in the nation. And they've got the highest murder rate in the country right now. So it proves that gun laws don't work. Now, granted, in Australia, they've got strict gun laws there, but I'd like to see a report on how many people were still killed with guns. I have a friend, he's a shooter. He likes to do long-range shooting, target shooting, and stuff like that. And he has to have his rifles, his guns, locked away in a safe that's off his immediate property. Which is really bad, because if you live out in a rural area and you got roaming thugs going around robbing people out in these sparsely populated areas, and you don't have a weapon to protect yourself. So then what are you going to do? You're screwed. The other really bad bill that's coming down, looks like it's going to be voted on and passed this week, is the Local Control Act, which basically is going to kill the oil and gas industry here in Colorado. And because we got a lot of, environmentalist nutcases who don't like the idea of our state pumping oil and natural gas out of the ground to produce energy with. And what that's going to do, it's going to reduce the state revenues, because we get a lot of revenue from minerals. And Weld County, I believe, is one of the only or few counties in the state that has a surplus, because there's a lot of oil and gas wells in that county, and everything is fully funded. Even the school system is fully funded. So, and it's going to end up hurting people in rural areas, because what it'll do is, once that industry leaves the state, then all the businesses that provided services for those people are going to be impacted by that. And it's also going to raise our electric rates. So it's really bad deal all the way around. So and so we can't have that. And so this is really touching off this recall movement, and which I hope is successful. But let's talk about the recall movement. And before we do that, I gotta quench my thirst here with a little cherry cola. Now, we had a recall movement going a few years ago. I think it was 2014, when they passed the magazine, gun magazine limit on how many rounds you can have in a gun magazine. And that touched off a firestorm. And there was a recall movement on 3 state senators. One in El Paso County and one in, I believe, Pueblo County, and the other one here in Jefferson County. 2 of them were successful, and those people were replaced with Republicans, who sadly only lasted that one brief term until they were replaced by Democrats, even though they did a good job for their districts. But their districts are Democrat, and they didn't last very long. Now, here in Jefferson County, Evie Hudak, which sadly was my state senator, she was set to be recalled, but she resigned before the recall election, and she was replaced with another Democrat, which is Rachel Zenzinger. However, Zenzinger was defeated after serving out the rest of Evie Hudak's term by Laura Woods. And but sadly, Laura lost her re-election bid due to a backward-thinking libertarian who couldn't see that, oh well, if I wasn't in, she'd be re-elected. And that guy drew enough votes away from her to partially hand the election to Zenzinger, although she did win with a little more than 50% of the vote. So we can't totally blame the Democrat or the Libertarian because Zenzinger still got over 50%. But now Evie Hudak, who had won twice, won with less than 50% and was helped by libertarians who would not support the Republican that was running, which, by the way, happened when Laura Woods ran against Rachel Zenzinger. The Libertarian endorsed Laura Woods and suspended his campaign. He didn't withdraw; his name was still on the ballot, but he endorsed her, and she was able to win with more than 50% of the vote, I believe. So and that's what can help when I don't know why libertarians can't see the light and say, all right, come and help us out, because if you let the Democrats win, you're going to get even less of what you want, and it's going to hurt the state even more. But libertarians are another breed, and they basically they don't give a crap about the state. They think they want to burn it down. They think if the state burns down and things get really bad, that they think in their little unicorn and rainbow world that people are going to vote for them. And that's just not going to happen. So here's the dilemma that we face this time. We need we need at least 600,000 signatures to force a recall of Governor Polis. In order to do that, we would probably have to have 800 or 900,000 signatures to cover any invalid signatures. But here's the kicker. Polis has millions of dollars that he could spend, and then you have a friendly state Supreme Court who will do anything in their power, and the state attorney general, who they will invalidate enough signatures to where the petition cannot go to being passed and forcing an election. So those are the scenarios that I see happen on the governor's race. Now on the state house and the state senate races or districts, the hurdle isn't quite as high. You don't need as many signatures. However, you got Polis and you got these billionaire Democrats out of state. You got Pat Stryker, billionaire here in Colorado. They're going to fund a anti-recall movement. And they're going to do everything in their power to stop this movement, which we didn't really have that kind of threat the last time, because I think the Democrats, they all just said, ha, 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 that's not going to happen. They're not going to, no, they're just whistling in the wind. That's not going to happen. And then when it did happen, I think they realized, holy cow, this is not good for us. So it really hurt them. So this is what's going to happen. They're going to throw a ton of money into defeating these recalls. Another thing that could happen is, say it looks like someone's about to be recalled, or the measure is going to come up to a vote. What'll end up happening is a lot of these office holders, these state reps and state senators, they're going to start resigning, and they'll just be replaced with another Democrat. And then that'll stop us in our track, and what'll end up happening is, then what do? Do we start all over again? I mean, because we will have spent a lot of money to remove these people, and now they're gone, but they're replaced with people that are just as bad as the ones that left. So that's our dilemma here in Colorado. So it's an uphill battle, but if the recall movement doesn't go forward or stop, and Polis ends up serving out this term and gets reelected, which I think is a very good possibility, I think what will happen is a lot of these bad laws that are being passed, really good, hard-working people are going to leave the state, because people will be leaving because it's just too expensive, and our freedoms are being taken away. Who would want to live in a state where your taxes are just as high in California, and the state's economy starts slowing down? And I think the reason why they want to stop the oil industry here in Colorado is Colorado is kind of a test subject for other states, because if they could stop the oil industry and the gas industry here in Colorado, what's to stop them from stopping oil and gas production in North Dakota? And what will end up happening is, state by state, they'll implement these rules, and they'll force the oil and gas industry to pull out state by state. And what will end up happening is, then we'll start importing oil again. And when that happens, then at the price of gas for our cars will start going up. And I really believe these really pie in the sky do-gooder liberals think that, well, if we make it expensive enough, people will buy these electric cars that cost 2 or 3 times as much as a gas-powered car or a diesel-powered vehicle. So it's really going to hurt the little guy, and then it's going to start affecting our economy. And I think what they're trying to do is, they're trying to destroy the economy that Donald Trump got going. And once they do that, then people they think Donald Trump won't be reelected. So that's the thing that worries about me. And then what'll end up happening is, a lot of people like myself, we will move to friendlier states like Texas or Wyoming or Tennessee, where cost of living is much cheaper there. But what I see happening is what I call the locust effect, and it started out in the Northeast, and then it spread to California, Oregon, Washington, and now those people are fleeing, and they're coming to states like Colorado and Utah, and they're turning those states into states they just left because they voted for the same laws and ideals that screwed up their state. And it just, it boggles my mind. Another topic that I wanted to touch on that I just recently saw was, I guess, Betsy DeVos decided, oh, we're going to cut funding to Special Olympics, and that got the ire up with the Democrats, but Donald Trump overruled and reinstated those the funding to Special Olympics. But here's what's so hypocritical about that on the Democrat side. They want funding to an organization that deals with the people with Down syndrome, yet they also want to fund an organization that kills babies with Down syndrome. And that just, it really doesn't compute with me. And this is what boggles my mind about the Kennedys. The Kennedys, they're the ones that started Special Olympics because of Rose Kennedy, who had mental, retardation, what they called back in the day. She was a lower functioning, intellectually functioning person. And now they're all big on abortion, which kills a lot of these babies with Down syndrome. Look at Iceland. They abort 100% of all the fetuses with Down syndrome. In Europe, it's as high, they're in the 90% area. Which is sad because these people, these poor babies, they're innocent in all this. They didn't choose to become what happened to them or what they, it just happens, chance. It was the roll of the dice, you might say, just a genetic thing that just happened. But these people, they could still become productive members of society. We've always had this safety net to help those that are not as fortunate as the rest of us. So, yeah, we help those kind of people. Now, this is where I draw the line on welfare. I think we make it too easy for people to get on it who really don't deserve to be on it, and it just really bothers me when I see people that are on, the dole, so to speak, when they could be helping out someone in a worse predicament. And they're taking away a chunk of their pie, so to speak. That just bothers me. It's like, so don't get me started on that. So where do we go from here? So now got the recall movement going. Let's see how that plays. I'm definitely going to be a volunteer for that. I had just moved into Jefferson County when they had the last recall, so I wasn't. I helped out with my earlier iteration of this program to help out those people. But this time I'm going to be out there with the signs and the petitions and getting people to sign up and say, hey, let's do this. Let's take back our state so it doesn't end up like California or Illinois. I mean, there is a thing. It's called the death spiral, and Illinois is on that death spiral, and they've tried to go bankrupt at least once or twice, but I guess their Supreme Court said no, you can't go bankrupt. You got all these pensions you got to fund. So they're in a world of hurt right now because of really bad policies in their state legislature. So we got one person watching. So let's. One of my goals is to make this a better program. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find a co-host, and maybe we can make this into a better program. This is a growing, evolving show, and to get information to you folks out there so you could decide on what you wanted. Now, the weather is looking really nice outside, so after this I'm going out flying. It's a little late to go fishing, and it's not that warm yet, so really waiting for spring to come around and do some fishing. I got vacation coming up at the end of April, and I'm really looking forward to that. So that's all I got, folks. We did about 50 minutes into the show. So I just want to thank you folks for coming here. I hope you'll watch the replay later, and hopefully next week you'll come back and watch more of the program. There we go. So I was off last week. It was another really nice day. Decided, let's go fishing. So I want to thank you guys for coming down. Things looking good. So this show is growing, and it's going to get better. We got a new logo that a friend of mine made, and I used a little different intro music to it. So so let's get some more support out there. Let's make this show better. So until next time, thanks for joining. God bless the state. God bless you. God bless the state of Colorado and this great nation, the United States. See you all next week. Have a great day. Bye-bye.